most important conferences or seminars that we hold during Victam and VIV. The future is about fish, is about pet, and the margins obviously are in those areas to attract us. As I say, my name is Roger Gilbert. I'm the publisher of International Aquafeed and International Pet Food magazines, besides our premier magazine, which is Milling and Grain, that has been in publication since 1891. You'll see up here that we have 3 speakers this morning. I'm going to allow something like 30 minutes of presentation, because I think we're very fortunate to have the caliber of speakers that this industry goes to worldwide, and we're very fortunate to have them here today. And I must say thank you to Andritz, Reynolds and Texas A&M for supporting us in holding this seminar. Okay, so without further ado, or before I do introduce our first speaker, I want to just point out that Joy has given out these cards. This allows you to see the latest edition of International Pet Food whenever you use that QR code. And the same goes for International Aquafeed. So if you're interested to receive this magazine digitally, regularly, please take one of those cards with you. Okay, our first speaker is Dr. Mian Rios, and he's from Texas A&M University in the USA. He's going to talk to us about designing healthier, functional pet treats through advanced extrusion strategy. And of course, you know, for both these fields, both pet food and aqua, extrusion is a primary manufacturing process. Not exclusively, but it's a primary one. Dr. Mian Rios is holder of the professorship in Food Diversity, Food Science and Technology Department at Texas A&M University. He joined Texas A&M 33 years ago after completing his PhD in food science from the University of Maine at Oriole, Maine. He served as director of the Process Engineering R&D Center, formerly Food Protein R&D Center, from 2005 to 2020. He organizes 5 courses every year in the area of extrusion technology. So as I say, we're very fortunate to have him here. Mian Rios. Dr. Mian Rios, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Roger, for the introduction. I think I'm going to stand here, maybe everybody can hear. Once again, good morning, and thank you very much, Roger, for the introduction. I appreciate that one. As you mentioned that we're going to discuss today about pet treats. That's the new trends, and you will see how things are evolving there in that industry. First of all, there's a lot of pet treats, and therefore my question is going to be about why we need to innovate something new one. Before we do that, we have to understand what is innovation. Therefore, if you look at that, innovation is basically you have to improve your ideas, product, services, processes, or businesses that can value. You can't just keep making the pet treats unless you innovate something new. And this is what we are saying, that you have to find out what is the innovation. And this is a key aspect of the innovation. Number one is that novelty. What is special with your pet treats? What is something new in the pet treats? Is this something new? Of course, value creation. What's the value of your pet treats? This just a generic pet treats we've been talking about. Problem solving, if you're solving some of the problem with a pet or something there's a hygienic, we talk about different things on that one. And then of course, implementation. If you have an idea, how are you going to implement that one? So basically just give you background to when you innovate some pet treats and all that, you have to keep in mind what is needed and what is the key aspect of that. Early days, if you look on the back history, it was very simple pet treats. If you remember that or not, I do remember it at home. You can have this kind of tools there, and I see a lot of people making their own pet treats. And that was the way that people want to make the pet treats, where you will go there and just, for your dogs, you can say, okay, I'm going to make my own pet treats, this and that. And now we have moved on from there, and it's not anymore same thing, because if you look here, annual volume per person in pounds, And 2022, this was like that, 103. And then you can see here 135 pounds that every consumer will be consuming the pet treats for their pet. Therefore, it is not anymore a home kitchen. You have to go industrial scale to produce that much for the people who are making the pet treats. And also, if you look over here, pet treats, snacks treat, also US, you can see here steady growth into it. It's going all the way up to 2030 and it's growing there. Therefore, it's become a very, very big market. And that's why we say we have to innovate, we have to go to that, some kind of new technology to make the pet treats. Therefore, we have moved from our kitchen, from home kitchen to industrial scale, where you have basically unique ideas of the pet treats, and then of course you have a whole system to making the pet treat. It's not like the same thing that you will use it at home. Therefore, it has gone to an industrial scale. And also, if you know that consumer, they like to feed their dogs what they are eating it, same thing what we eat it, beef jerky or bacons or maybe eggs and everything like that, same thing. Therefore, basically, it is a very high-end technology, rather than just making at home for the kitchen. And that helps us with the extrusion technology. If you look over there, that earlier, 1953, and then you can see from there, all the changes happen in the extrusion technology, and we are right here today with that one. And that's basically allowing us to make all different kind of pet treats in that industry there. Therefore, just to talk about, as I mentioned, that to innovate something, you have to have proper tool. And this is what we're going to discuss about with extrusion technology, what is there and how it's going to work to make your system there. We all know that here, that this is a typical extruders that will be using it for the pet. Basically, it will talk very briefly, live bins, there's a feed system, preconditioning system, and extruder barrel that's required to make that, of course, the pet treats there in this case. A typical pet food, if you could say a typical pet food treat extruder consists of your feeding system, your preconditioning system, your extruders, and the cutting system. So this is what is required to make the new pet treats there. This is what we're going to discuss one by one. And of course, each of them have a very specific function. We have a live bins, which will throw the raw materials. Then of course we have here the preconditioners, and of course the function is, of course, we can here cook the materials properly, add some slurries, do different things, and then of course come to the extruder barrel. Therefore, we will discuss very briefly the innovations happen in the pet food industry and how these extrusion systems are helping us to design these new pet treats there as well. We all know about preconditioning. When you started, it was basically very simple, just a single shaft preconditioners. And then of course industry realized that that's not enough for the cooking and the mixing. And then of course they got a double shaft preconditioner, which we have two shafts, which will give you much better cooking and all these things. And then of course they realized that we need even more retention time, therefore they got a differential diameter preconditioner. And then for the pet treats, when they want to add that, especially, they have to come up with something called a high intensity preconditioner, which will design to mix more meat, application meat slurries and all that. That's a trend, you see it. And this basically have a lot of function there because it has a two shaft and they're separate, and then of course it can rotate either clockwise and anti-clockwise, and it can also help you to add a lot of fresh meat. The function here, what we're trying to do from the preconditioning here, basically is we want to mix, hydrate, heat, and of course add the meat into it. And then that's what basically, if you look over there, and this is, they want to cook the raw materials and then before it go to the extruders, because if you're using a lot of meat, everything like that, in this case, you have to properly mix it, hydrate it, and heat it before it will go to next step to make the pet treats. And reason it is why is that important, that preconditioner, if you look over this graph here, you will see that almost 54% energy we use is coming from the preconditioner. Rest of the energy come from the extruder barrels, come from the other places there, but most of the energy we will get here, again, coming from that preconditioner that we use there. Therefore, it's become a very, very integral part of the system. Unless you don't have a good kind of preconditioner, you may not be able to make a good quality pet treats there as well. And then, as I mentioned there, the function here is that where we hydrate it, we mix it, properly cook it, and the high intensity preconditioner does that one, which we can use a lot of fresh meat there. Therefore, basically our goal here is to mix the hydrate and of course heat the materials there. That's the preconditioner there. And as I mentioned there's a lot of benefit of this kind of preconditioner in the pet treats. Of course, it's a mixing intensity is controlled separately, increase the mixing speed, mixing intensity, twice the beater contact, retention time can be varied, improve the steam absorption, and also it has a new thing called SMI, which is a steam and a mixing index with the water. Therefore, now we have steam mixing injection there as well in this kind of system there. And if you can see here, this is a traditional mixer there that you will see a preconditioner. It doesn't mix properly when you want to make a pet treats. But when you go with the high intensity, where you add it mixing with 30% meat slurry for the pet treats, it will give you much better mix here. Similarly, you can see here, you have small balls which is uncooked and not properly designed, and whereas you can see here, it is very good done here. Therefore, basically for the pet treats, you need to have it, especially if you want to add fresh meat into it, you have to add quite a few mixing there. As I mentioned there, the other innovations in this kind of thing is preconditioner is called a SMI, which is basically steam mixing injection. In this case, you are mixing your steam as well as your water together so that you can eliminate all your special ports there going there. Some of that injections sometimes got plugged up and then you don't realize that. Sometimes it has a lot of condensations and then you suddenly you got a lot of water into it. In this case, you have basically blow down right here so that you can basically blow down all your condensate before it goes to that also into the precondition, all the steam and water. And here you can see here the steam water mixing, the whole system, new one going into the preconditioner in order to make a nice pet treat so you have proper steam and water injection in that system. Then it comes to the next is that your barrel. Okay, what kind of system extruder do you have? You have single shaft, you have a twin shaft, and what is into it? And then of course, what my question is, what is the modern extrusion system here? Yes, we have a single shaft, we have a twin shaft, but we're looking for that. What is the new things into it? How we can make it more efficient and make it more work? And basically, a modern single screw extruder should have it, number one, continuous flow, easy and precise control, smooth process, choice of processing energy as required. Therefore, well-projected, balanced, and kept extruder system. You need a extruder barrel, which is not a traditional. You need to be an advanced one, which will basically give you this kind of information there as well. Therefore, basically, modern extrusion system, one heavy-duty shaft, you will see that one, robust design, precise on most application, can be used for the pet food, aquafeed, typically lower capital cost, high volume, good conveying, formula-dependent, workhorse of industry. If you want to make a nice looking pet treats, you need to have a nice looking extruder as well. You cannot make a wine from the water. You have to have good grapes, good quality grapes in order to make a good quality wine. And if you add the water, say I want to make a wine, water is not going to make the wine. If you have a very simple type of barrel, a simple type of preconditioner, it's not going to make you a good quality pet treats, which consumer want to see that uniform. You have to have a good quality extruder. Then of course we have a modern twin screw extruders, and this is some of their characteristics. If you're looking some unique treats, therefore you need to have basically a positive conveying, complex design, of course, can be used for pet food, typically higher. These are the characteristics of that modern twin screw extruder that you're looking for, and that basically help you as well to design a good quality pet treats there in this industry. And therefore, to summarize this part here is that modern twin screw extrusion is that you have to have a higher capacity, to have a positive superior conveying system, complex and high precise application, higher capital, of course, maintenance cost, less formula dependent, reliability of precision. If you're looking for a nice pet treats there that you're looking for that, you need to have a very nice modern pet food also extruder there in case to help that one. Then also if you want to make it fresh meat, like more than 100% fresh meat in the industry, you have to use a thermal extruder. That depend less on mechanical than more on that thermal energy. And that allow you to make even 110%, 120% fresh meat to the formula. That's what you want to use there in this case. And this is that one which we have a thermal extruders that are designed to make it high meat snacks there in case. And then this is just to show you that thermal twin screw extruders set up there that you can use it and you can make all different kind of pet treat with that one. And in this case, you can have a high meat and has a very high capacity as well and high meat in this case too. Basically, this is also other option for the people there with using a twin screw extruder as well for that. Then of course, die and the knife on the end of the extruders. You need to have a good quality knife which will cut accordingly what you're looking for. all different option you have. If you are making like the slab kind, this kind, you want a rope, you have to have proper your knife and proper of your die there as well. Therefore, this is the whole thing which I talk about it. You have to have a feeding system. This is typical parameters. You have so much moisture there, how much temperature there, and what's the capacity. From there, you come to the preconditioner that will give you retention times, product moisture, temperature, what's the pressure. Then you come to the barrel here, and then that's processing condition there. Therefore, this will be the new state-of-the-art extruders that will help you to make your pet treats there as well if you're looking for that one. Therefore, basically, just to see that, you have a raw materials comes there, go into the preconditioner, and then of course you come to the extruder, and then the extruder is got cooked there, and then of course it will in the barrel, and then of course come to the cutting. Therefore, from home footprint, we have gone to the industrial scale footprint, then which we are making a pet treats there. Therefore, that is just to give you idea the way we have moved from our kitchen all the way to very high-end technology with extrusion technology. Now we're going to talk about consumer-driven trends, what's making this thing happen, why we want this kind of product. Because if you know the wellness is the king, 1/3 of the all new pet treats are grain-free, increasing demand for the high-quality ingredients, humanizations, focus on the protein sources, demand of the safe food, innovative, difficult, health benefits, and of course we need to have bonds, enhancing treat, and then of course differentiation is a driver. You know, during the COVID time in the US, we have seen so much growth in the pet treats because most of the people are staying at home, and the only thing they have their partner was the dogs and cat. Therefore, the pet treat have taken off that time usually very big there, and therefore you have to see that what consumer want, and that's when you have to make it. Therefore, basically, what are the emerging trends that we see it, that we want to make it? We're going to discuss that one. We have a novel treats. We have organic ingredients, and we have also eco-friendly packaging, and then of course there's a lot of other things that's helping the pet treat industry to go to emerge in new technology, new things like there as well. Of course, once again, pet hold a special place in the consumer heart. Many pet owners pampering their pets, of course, top priority. So you have to give them the very delicious, nutritious pet food. As you can see it, that's their family member. They stay with them, they sleep with them, they play with them. The food has to be very safe, very clean, and of course it has to be the same food what they are eating there. And that basically we will discuss now briefly trends in the pet food. The first trend is a functional ingredient. What that means, the functional ingredients such as probiotic, antioxidant, glucosamine, and all these things being incorporated into the pet treats like we are doing for the human application. These ingredients offer specific health benefit that with joint issues, digestive problems, or medical condition. That was for the human, but this is the same thing as the pet food. Now we see that this is the one of the trend. We're going to discuss that one. And for that one, we have to pick a lot of raw materials. There's a lot of raw materials now, which is also the food grade raw materials that we use for the human consumption. They are using it for the pet treat as well. Therefore, you can see here different raw materials that we're going to use for that pet treats there. And the raw materials that we are using in the pet treats, basically we have some kind of protein sources, carbohydrate sources, fat, fiber, vitamins, natural flavor, preservative, fruits, vegetables, supplements, grains. So anybody thought earlier that we will be using fruits and vegetables there in the pet treats, but no, we're using all the fruits, all the vegetables and everything into that. And you can see here in the pet treats there is the organic meat, there's a peas there, there's cranberry there, freeze-dried pieces there, there's carrots there, the rye roasted peas. Therefore, this is what they're looking for, the consumer to feed their dogs, what they're eating, they want to feed as well. So what's the sources of the protein? Number one sources of protein will be that high quality animal protein sources, chicken, beef, turkey, fish, lamb, duck. And I have now listed here, we have kangaroo meat, we have alligator meat, we have also some salmon. There are a lot of different meat also coming up there in the industry that people are using it. And therefore, this is basically now a trend which one you wanted, you can get any kind of protein source for their pet. Then we have also carbohydrate sources for the energy, mostly the rice, sweet potato, potatoes, oats, barley, peas, lentil. We never thought about a lentil and peas and the barley, the oats will go into the pet treats, but no, they are going into the pet treats also because that's what the trend is there. Of course, the fat is chicken fat, fish oil, sunflower oil, canola oils being continuously using for the energy source and as essential fatty acid, commonly that will use in that pet treat as well. Fiber, also we need to give a fiber as aid in digestion. Sources that the peat bulbs, pea fibers, flaxseed, chicory, rods that we use there also in that, as an ingredient. Vitamin minerals that we have to add also. It's the common additive includes vitamin A, D. We have minerals, we have calcium and phosphorus that we have to use that one into our pet treat as well. And natural flavors, and we have a roasted garlic flavors now, onion concentrates, we have roast beef dripping, we have smoky bacons, grilled sirloins, grilled chickens, grilled pork. All the flavor you will see the human use it, they are using for the pet treat also because they are the same value. So basically therefore this will be the same thing we're using for the human now, we have to use that for also for the pet treat as well. And then we have to use some preservatives to extend the shelf life, like antioxidant, like vitamins and E, vitamin C may be added to the preservatives. Therefore, we need to add also vitamins there in this case. And of course, we also talk about fruits and vegetables. These can provide some additional nutrients. Example include the carrots, the peas, the apples, and the blueberries that we're using also in the pet treats. Supplements, some pet food may contain specific supplement. As I mentioned, there are glucosamine, carotene, and also some other health and probiotic for digestion. That will you see that one here, that will be using that as well. Grains, while I mentioned that, there is a lot of consumer who want grain-free option, but there are some people also who are looking for the grain in that their pet food as well. That's basically the rice, the oat, the barley for their carbohydrate content. Therefore, you will see some of the pet treat as well, which contain the grains in that case. Okay, therefore, these are some of the samples I'm going to show you. The pet treats with the probiotics, if you can see here, all that here, this will basically talk with the active probiotics there. These are the things that pet treats are being made right now. And then of course, pet treat with antioxidant, you can see there all different kind of 19 antioxidant that is we have here. All these kind of different things are fortified with that natural antioxidant, vitamins and minerals. Therefore, that's basically is that we're making the pet treat as well. Here is that with the glucosamine I mentioned there, that hips and joint support that treats. And you can see here also this is like making this as lobster rolls that is used to be for the human, but also they're making here for that with glucosamine also for their pet as well. Now other trends you would see it. Other trends are grain-free and limited ingredients. And then of course more pet food diagnosed with allergies, sensitivities. Therefore, demand for the grain-free, limited ingredients treats has surged. Therefore, people don't want allergic to that. You see a lot of dogs are having itchy problem. They don't want any of that. And these options cater to pet with the dietary restriction, making it easier for the owners to find suitable treats for their beloved companion. Therefore, you can see here, pet treats for the allergies, best allergy-friendly dog treats that's being made here that you can find as well. And then of course again here is the pet treats for allergies too, you can see here. And then also grain-free pet treats. Now you can see here the grain and gluten-free, because a lot of times we want to make our gluten-free. Therefore they want to make sure this is gluten-free, and of course this is also getting a new trends there, we want that one. Limited ingredients pet treats, that means it's limited time where you can use a duck and green lentil entries. We never thought about it. We're using green lentil in the pet treats. Also the duck meat, in this case is the lamb. You can see a raw coated kibbles, and that limited ingredients diet there that you can get. Therefore, you can do a lot of different things now in the pet treats. That's what we see it in the industry. Pet treat with a dietary restriction, sometimes like the same as human. Pet have a dietary restriction. In this case, we have basically prescription diet, soft baked treats, help support the kidney and the heart health. If this is one, you make it with a prescription diet as well. Pet treat with the dental hygienic, you can see here in this case, you have special treats that will help your teeth hygienic then too. And therefore this is basically a dental treat there that they want to make it so that they clean their teeth when they eat the treat as well, they clean their teeth. And other trends, you will see that one also in the pet treat is called natural and organic ingredients. And basically natural and organic was very common for that human, but now we have to feed also the organic. The organic has extra cost, maybe 2 times more than the normal ingredients. But of course that consumer willing to pay for that because they say we are eating organic, why we can't feed our pet organic? And also they are doing it also natural ingredients. We don't want any processed ingredient, we want a natural ingredient. And just as in human, pet owners are increasingly seeking natural and organic ingredients in their diet. They are conscious of the potential health benefit, wholesomeness ingredients, They don't want artificial additives. They want any colors. They don't want any preservative. They want basically the organic and all natural. And again, here is that pet treats with no fillers, artificial colors, flavor, or preservative. Real salmon and sweet potato recipe. Therefore, in this case, they're using a salmon and also sweet potato. And it's a grain-free, no fillers or artificial ingredients here. You can see right here. And basically, it's a pure goodness. They're making a protein, they're like that. Therefore, that's other trends because they want to feed the same thing what they're doing it for themselves. Organic pet treats, that is basically is for your skin and coat sport because you want your skin and coat looks nice. And of course, they want to do that one. And this is, you can see here, made with 100% human quality ingredients for the dog. Therefore, this is basically, you can also eat it. If you notice that most of the pet, the kids will basically feed them. And at home, sometimes I have seen it also, and I've seen videos too, when they feed the dog, the leftover, they can also chew themselves. It has to be that safe that they don't get any contamination and they are the same quality as a human. So when they are feeding it a leftover, sometimes they even consume that. And they can try as well. The kids are kids, they will do it anything. Therefore, they will basically also chew that. And that's why they want to make it very, very clean and safe. Then also the other trend is we call it all natural pet treat. We talk about it. All natural baked beans. That means it's just a natural. There's no processing take place, no additives, no preservatives. And also here you can see it, apple and toasted almonds. When I was kids, I could not have an apple because where I grew up, apple was very expensive. And also the almonds was not easy to get it. We only got 2 or 3 almonds at night because good for your brain. And now we are feeding that to our dogs because we are making a treat with the apples and with that almonds. And that's what is the future is there. People are trying to spend the money in the pet treat industry because they want to make that one. And if you can see here, in this case, apple and toasted almonds, all natural ingredients. And in this case, is all natural baked pet food here too, and all the natural treats. Also, other trends we see it is called the unique flavors. And I'm sure that if you go to that any of the shopping mall, you can see new ice cream. There are 100 different flavors coming up, and also different kind of baba tea and all that, all different flavors. I was assuming how many flavors we have it. While same trends have moved into the pet food now, therefore they are making the same trend. Pet food manufacturers basically are experimenting with a unique flavor and the shape to enhance both pets and the owner. From artisanal cheese and the peanut butter flavor treats to the bone-shaped biscuits and paw print cookies, variety is the key to keeping the pet excited. Therefore, it's not only they're making different flavors, but they offer different design of the pet treats so that make them very attractive and all that. And here you can see here, this is basically is a flavor, a scent with the apple, carrots, and peas made with the wholesome grains with the peanut butter flavor. Therefore, peanut butters, my kids love that. We every day have peanut butter sandwich, but why not their dog have peanut butter? That's why they're making a peanut butter sandwich here as well. Here's the pet treats, it's gone banana, and of course there's the banana flavor there too, a different one. But basically you can see here it's peanut butter flavor also, pet treats making it. Therefore, this is what I'm trying to explain here is that whatever you see it in the human trends, you're going to see that maybe in 1 or 2 years in the pet food treat trends. Because it takes 2 years before it go to the pet, before it goes to go all the industry there, but it has to be first in trends. You will see it. Same thing we saw the gluten-free, carb-free, or grain-free, and all that. In the human, we see the same thing coming up into that pet food too. And as I mentioned, shape. Why the shape is important? To make them excited, make them like that. They have different shapes of the pet treat, not unique, simple, every time shape, because that will not make them excited, the kids and the owners and the buyers and the consumer. If they want to design something unique and different shapes so that it's a little more excitement for everybody. And therefore you will see it all different kind of shapes there. And this is basically very interesting because they have cube there. Shape makes that difference there as well. And therefore basically just different cubes there. And also I have seen a different kind of shapes rather than just a regular dog bone. I know they have different shapes there as well that they can make it with that die design. I told you that, different thing like that. And you can make that pet food and treats. Okay, toward end, also at the same time is the other trend is sustainability. The consumers are very conscious that if the product you're making is sustainable or not. Are we wasting a lot of environment, or we can do different things. So basically there's a growing focus on sustainability in the pet treats production with efforts to reduce the waste, use eco-friendly packaging, and of course source ingredients from the responsible and ethical suppliers. They don't want even the ingredients go to that which is the forced labor being used and other thing like that. They want to make sure that it is a fair trade and also it is a responsible and ethical supplier of all the ingredients, and then they want to use that so that it is not, you know, same trend as you will see in the human. You have to get certification specifically for the ingredients. Certification is responsible, it's ethical suppliers, and also some of that is the packaging materials. Therefore, packaging innovation have also taken place in that, because they want to make sure the package is also attractive, because package is the one who protects the food, and if package is not correct and you don't see anything inside and all that, you're going to waste all your pet food. Therefore, basically they make sure that pet is a recyclable, pet packaging is recyclable, but also it is very nice and attractive. Therefore, packaging technology also have advanced with the development of the resealable bags, because this is not a pet dog food. This is a pet treats. Pet treats are very expensive. They may $2 or $3. You buy like 6 of them and you take only one and give it to the pet. Therefore, rest of them you want to make sure it's closed back nicely. Therefore, you have to have Ziploc bag or something like that where you close it. You can't just leave it open like the bag, because they will get moisture and they get fungus, they will grow. It's very expensive. Each pet treat can cost you even $5. $5 in the US, one pet treats. You don't want to waste that one. Therefore, there has to be good packaging system so that you can protect that, the texture, the flavor, the shape, and also the everything there. But if you lose it open, once you open the bag and it's not closable, you lose all the flavor, you lose all the things there, and then it's not attractive there. Therefore, packaging have came up with there. And of course, also resealable bags, single serve portion, so that you can only do it maybe 1 time or 2 times whenever you want to give to your, you can give it that single serving only 1 time. The pet treat is not a complete diet for the dog food, by the way. You give a pet treats whenever you come home, you have some excitement, there is some kind of treats, like you don't give your kids treat of chocolate or candies every day to eat to fill their diet. These are something extra treats that you give it to them dog when they do something really good. Therefore, it's the same thing, kids treat. They have to have normal food. Then when they do something good in the classroom, they're good in the sports, you give them a treat of chocolate, you give them a treat of ice cream. Same thing as dog and cat. You don't give them treats every day. You give them the treats, of course, when they do something good with you and they play with you and you are happy, you give them only 1 or 2 a day pet treats. Don't give them regular as a source of diet. That's not their pet food. That's just their treat. And that's what you do that. And then, of course, they want to preserve their freshness and prevent their spoilage, because if there's not proper packaging, you will basically spoil everything there. Therefore, we want to make sure that it's proper packaging and do everything like that accordingly. Therefore, now paper bags are inexpensive and environmentally friendly way to package. Therefore, you can see there are new trends where, of course, you have a small hole there that you can see what's inside look like, or some of the big label here that you can see everything right there. And these are basically a resealable bag that you can close them also, bag them again there, or you can do it single serving too, because this is more environmentally friendly, sustainable. They don't want also to go there to buy something and then, of course, at the same time is that you are polluting the your environment. You don't want to pollute the environment, the plastics and the bag. You want to make sure that it is basically recyclables and all that. Here is the recyclable bag, enough to hold several treats. Therefore, you can see here, these are resealable bag. In this case, you will have these treats which will hold there. And then, of course, then you will use whatever you wanted, then you can close them back again. And that's the new trends you will see there, recyclable. Basically, resealable bags there that you can see that one. Traceability, that's the other thing here. That is very important for the pet treats, because I don't know if you understand or not. You have one recall comes in and then your company is gone to the hell, because you can't be bankrupt there, because you want to see the data, you want to collect all the information, you have a traceability. But most of the information now, advanced technology, especially the AI is getting very popular. The AI technology which give you all the data, what you have it, and then of course help you to throughout the supply chain, allowing the consumer to track the origin of the ingredients, verify the product quality and safety. So you want to make sure that you have traceability for every single ingredient. You have traceability of where the material is coming from, who was the supplier, how it was purchased, do they have certification or not, so that if anything happens, you can go back and talk with them and see what's going on. Basically is that it is very important. Unless you don't have any data, then and then of course you will not go anywhere because you don't know which ingredients where they're coming from and what was the source and how were the suppliers and how it processed. That is very important. You have to have that one. And of course we have digitalization as well as the data analytical. Some companies of leverage digital technology data to optimize the production process. As I mentioned, it's not that easy to make all these new trends into it. Therefore, you have to get some help from that, digitalization and all that. Therefore, basically, to have to optimize the processing conditions, improve your product quality, and gain insight into the consumer preferences and also purchasing behavior. This is going to help you to when you go to see what consumer want. How do you know this consumer want natural, this one organic, this one, this one? Therefore, the data is the one which will help you to digitize, to collect that information. In this market, in Thailand, in Bangkok, what consumer looking for, how much they're willing to pay for that. You don't want to make a pet treat with $5, nobody buy it. Maybe in this market you have only $1 customer. But if you go to US and Europe, yes, people are willing to spend $5. If you have to have a data with you, you have to have some of all the information from you, and you can get help for that one, so that you can have a consumer purchasing behavior preferences. You can have all the information from there as well. Regulatory compliance, then of course you have to do that with the new trends. You have to have regulatory compliance. That means what? That means with increasing scrutiny from regulatory body, pet food manufacturer invest in the compliance management system to ensure their product meet all the relevant safety and labeling standards. Therefore, you have to have basically requirement from that. In the US, we have FDA, we have also AFCO, we have other USDA. Therefore, if you are using the meat, all the things we have to follow the USDA guidelines and some other guidelines there too. And then you have to follow and find out what is going on, how you're buying all these ingredients, and if you have safety, and you basically follow their guidelines. Therefore, in conclusion, overall, innovation and the new trends in the pet treat processing and management technology prioritize nutrition excellence, safety, sustainability, consumer convenience to meet the evolving need of the pet and their owners. So basically, this is the things which we go to see there, what's going on with that. And with that, I will be happy to answer any question you have it. Also, I just want to show you there is also a book I brought with me also. It's not on the pet, but it's on extrusion. If anybody interested, you can also see that one and also purchase that too. This is called Extruders and Expanders in the Pet Food. Therefore, if you're looking for that, I'm going to leave it here. You can look into that one book too. And if you're looking for, you can also, it was published from Germany, and it has all the information about extrusion as well. With that, do we have time for question and answer?
We will take questions and answers, yes. But first of all, let's thank Mian for his... Let's thank Mian for his all-embracing presentation. I think for those who came in a little bit later, we started off looking at the extrusion system first before we moved on to the exact products and specifications that he spoke about. I've got a question, actually. We know there's just a handful of big pet food manufacturers in the States. Are they all making this range of products, or are these specialty manufacturers?
There are very few bakeries on the pet food also in that in the US, not that many, and they make only very special birthday cake for the dog when they have birthday and all these things and treat, but they don't make all this kind of glucosamine and all that. You have to have that for special places, but all other general pet bakeries and all that, they just make the regular pet treats, not very special pet treats. That you have to work with somebody and get, especially like big company, and they can invest in it, and that's what they do that one.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have a comment or a question from the audience? Yes, we have a question here. Just state your name first.
Okay. Hi, I'm Bang. I have a question for the trends or the pet treats. Maybe you could share in US and Asia. Forms, which form is the most popular? Like jerky, or like biscuits, or like freeze-dried?
Yes. Well, the thing is that depending upon the freeze-dryers are usually expensive. I've seen some treats there as well, but freeze-dried costs a lot of money, but it is little more expensive. Most of the time we see that is just a pet treat, regular one, and that's one is getting more popular than that one. But it's extruder pet treats. I haven't shown you all because I had originally, I think 45 minutes, but Raja was nice. He gave me his 15 minutes. If I know, I would have more slides to show you how to put your fruits into the pet treats. Therefore, their trend is there that they have a special system there. They will bring all that freeze-dried fruits, all that small bits and everything, and they will add into that precondition that you can see the pet treat which has a lot of fruits into it. But basically it's a kibble fork, or sometimes they have snacks like treats like that, sometimes they have biscuit like that. It's depending upon, and sometimes have jerky too. Especially depending upon the treats. If that's for the dental, it has to be very chewy and long one so they can chew that, and that's where this will basically help them to clean their teeth as well. It's all depend upon different marketing gimmicks.
You have another question? This is your opportunity.
Here's the other.
Please state your name.
My name is Vilay. I'm from Kim Il-sung University of Technology in Bangkok.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your excellent presentations. I'm working with a mushroom farm
Mushroom.
in Thailand.
Yeah.
Edible, they produce edible medicinal mushroom. So could you please tell us more about the trend for the pet food with
Mushroom.
Yeah, because I saw many products in the website.
Yes, I'm sure that there are a lot of different unique products there which I haven't come across, but I'm sure that you can use mushroom because human eat the mushrooms. Why not our pet eat the mushrooms? Therefore, depending upon to bring the flavor of that, if a dog will like or not, what is the palatability of the mushroom? Therefore, you may have to do some fermentation, add some flavor, add something in there before that acceptance of that. Because unless mushroom here, and we use it also, we have to add some flavors on it, cook it like that. Similarly, if you have to work something on that one also, and then it will be used, yes. You can use that mushroom. It's a very good source of protein, and also it will help if you have local ingredients, why not? Yes.
Is this popular in?
No, it's not popular in the US. No, it's not popular. I haven't seen any product with a mushroom yet in the US. You have seen any mushroom? Not in the US yet. We haven't seen anything that one big. If you make it here, I'm sure trend will go there as well. People think over the benefit, they start using the mushroom as well. You can imagine anything. Like I mentioned earlier, apple and almonds. I have never thought in my lifetime that I will be feeding to the dog. But no, they're making with real apples and real almonds, they're making that one. Therefore, people are paying it, and whoever pays it, they will make it.
Okay, any comment or another question? Me and Dr. Riaz is around all morning, so please take advantage of him to approach him individually if you wish. But we've dealt with pet food, which has been our primary number one speaker, and we'd like to pass you a vote of thanks once again before we move on. But thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you very
Riaz.
much. Thank you.
Okay, now we're switching quite subtly towards Aquafeeds.
That's okay.
And Phil Erickson from Reynolds Engineering and Equipment in the USA is going to address us on why particle size matters in aquafeed and pet food. But particle size is a very big issue. Particle size is a very big issue, and I think we have one of the world experts here to address the subject. But let me give you a little bit of background on Phil before he starts. Phil Erickson is currently the International Application Engineer for Reynolds Engineering and Equipment, Inc. Phil received his bachelor degree from the University of Minnesota in analytical chemistry. During his career in the industry, he has been involved in the production of shrimp and larvae aquafeeds throughout the world, working with most major aquafeed facilities in the production of specialty feeds which require ultra-fine input materials. In addition, he is well versed in the evolving developments and requirements associated with natural and organic production and in foods and feeds. I think we're having a little bit of a technical issue here.
No, he just was there. I didn't change the date on it.
There we go.
Do I need this?
Yeah,
I think I have
and
this one.
No, that's for the.
Oh, that's from there. Okay. Hello? Huh?
I changed it.
Okay. This is just our contact information, things like that. I assume what?
Hold it close. Hold it close.
Okay. Hopefully I'll get it right. Anyhow, I assume everybody's going to get a copy of this or have access to it. Is that true? So you don't need to take pictures or whatever. You should be able to get it. And we're just going to kind of get into this. Basically, our company does a lot of size reduction and classification and things like that. And we have a couple different grinding methods that we do. And we're just going to talk about some of the advantages of doing fine grinding. I think all these extrusion people can probably tell you the advantages of doing a nice grind on your product, whatever it is, pet food or Aquafeed. Aquafeed is very important. So anyhow, let's get into this a little bit. I guess we're talking about what does it mean to be, is what I always tell everybody. In this case, we're using a pulverizer. That's what we're going to talk about today. But most of the things that are ground are done on hammer mills. But we're going to go beyond the hammer mill with this pulverizer, and we're going to talk about why you do this fine grinding. Why would you even use a pulverizer to do this? If you're grinding mushrooms or whatever, dried mushrooms, whatever. So anyhow, what is, and then we'll talk a little bit about the system design, because we have some liability issues occasionally in grinding. It's not such a big problem in pet food or aquafeed, but we do have to discuss some of the system designs. So we're going to just kind of jump into this, I guess. And this is something that I'm kind of wrestling with a little bit. There's fine grinding and wheat processing. That's usually roller mills. Aquafeed is generally considered fine grinding is when you want to get it down below 60 mesh or 250 micron. That's when you start looking at a pulverizer. You may not need one if you're making large pellets, but if you're making like 0.6, 0.8, anything like that, if you're using a twin screw and you're doing nice small pellets, you'd want to use a pulverizer. I think most of the extrusion people will recommend that. So there's reasons to grind fine. And anyhow, just to make sure we're doing it right, this is a jet sieve that we use for especially high fat materials. This is not, it's like a rotap. You put the product in, and in this case, it doesn't clog from the high fat. Oh, yeah. So this is a jet sieve, and this is laser diffraction, which they kind of measure differently. The laser type system, it typically does it by volume, but now they have algorithms that will calculate it back to by weight. You got to make sure you're doing one by weight or one by volume, because they're totally different numbers. And the algorithms are pretty good. You can see they match pretty good. Anyhow, we're just going to kind of zip through this. We were talking about, he was talking about pet food and grain-free. One of the things that really seems to be growing for us is this pea protein product. So I'm just going to mention it. It was designed for pet food. That's when we originally got into it. Unfortunately, most of the material ended up going into pet foods rather than aquafeeds. So what we're doing on this is we're going to grind the pea protein. Vegetable proteins are still cheaper than meat proteins. And we grind the heck out of it, and then we double classify it with air classifiers. So we can separate and get a high, let's see if I got that right. We can get a high protein mix where we can get it up to about 65, 70% protein. And we take off most of the starch, which is a sellable product. And then we end up still with some meal and fiber that is mixed into a batch that we have to sell back as pea meal. And that you don't make much money on, but you can make good money just doing this. There's companies that this is all they do, and they're expanding, and they're putting it in pet food. So it is a growing market, but still it's something that we see is really taking off. Peas have some advantages, growing them and whatnot. They take less inputs, they grow in drier environments. And then I'm just going to touch on this real quick. This is kind of like a hull product of the test didn't really work out that well. This is a very finely ground hammer mill product. And I'm just trying to show the angle of repose, which is kind of a quick way of testing the flowability of the product. But what they wanted us to do is to liberate the protein in here and from the fiber, because this is kind of the outside of the hull, like a bran on a wheat. So we're trying to separate the fiber and the protein to make the protein more digestible. It was just too expensive to do it that way, but that's what we did anyhow. We tried it. And then the other advantage was in the same product, you can see the uniformity of color when you do a fine grind. This is a hammer milled product on a very small screen. This is a pulverized product, and it really delivers a very consistent color, which in pet food may or may not be important to you. Aquafeed, probably not so much, although even there they want a nice uniform pellet. So it's kind of doing both. And then the physical properties, we won't hit too much on this, but the diameter of the particle is the important thing here. We put in specific surface because that's kind of the combination of the two. And this is just a way of calculating the volume of a powder. We can calculate it just by knowing the average diameter. And we can do this calculation. The surface area is important. We can combine these two into specific surface, which gives us kind of a density and a surface area kind of all in one. So it's just a different way of doing it, looking at it. But anyhow, the specific surface, it doesn't matter what you want to look at, but you can see as you get finer, the surface area, the specific surface area goes way up. So as we get finer and finer, we're seeing that so like this would be, let's look at this. This is like a hammer mill product, and this would be in the range of the pulverizer. And this would be in the range of the hammer mill. The hammer mill is cheaper than the pulverizer. A little bit cheaper. It's not that much cheaper anymore, and a lot of these hammer mills are getting pretty fancy. It's just some mathematical calculations to look at. I don't know, I think I had too much coffee today. So one of the reasons that we would do a fine grind is if we're doing a small pellet, we don't want to clog the die. So we're going to reduce the particle size. We want to be about 1/3 of the die size. Then we get into the radius of the particle, which is kind of more important actually. It's for thermal processes and for moisturization or hydration, whatever you want to use your term. It's distance to center. So thermally, it's easier to get to the middle of the particle with heat. And it's also easier to penetrate the particle or get the moisture into it, which again, the extrusion experts can tell you about how important that is. And then there's this surface area that we were talking about. It has to do with chemical reactions. So if we have more surface area, it's easy to react with acids and whatnot, which is what happens in your digestive system. So we think when we grind fine, we're improving digestibility, certainly in the shrimp, small size stuff. The processing advantage, 99% of the material through 1/3 of the die size is kind of the target, at least from a die clogging position. And then we get into this thing with crumbling, which is still done sometimes. We reduce waste. When you crumble, you're only going to get a certain percentage on size. You might get some overs, but you're going to get fines, as they call them, fines. And one of the things we always have to talk about here is the so-called fines. When we make any kind of pellet, pet food or aquafeed, people come to us and they say, well, we got too many fines. So to a pulverizer person, this means overs. It's the large particles that cause weakness in the pellet, and that's where they crack. And that's when you sell a bag of dog food or you sell a aquafeed, you don't want to have a bunch of powder in the bottom of the bag. The customer's going to be kind of ticked off. You want the pellet to stay nice and stable. And that helps. When you grind it fine, you're going to get a nice bonding of that kibble piece or whatever you're doing. The things that we get into here, we get into pet treats, mostly for color and additives. Like I said, we do a lot of larval feeds, they're very small sizes. eel feeds where it's important not to have particles stuck in their mouth that might cause a lesion. Tilapia feeds, again, it's mostly in the larval stage. And then shrimp feeds. And there's a change in the shrimp feeds today. They're trying to teach them to, they're putting smaller pellets in even for bigger shrimp, just so they grab the pellet and eat it whole rather than tear it apart and cause water problems in the pond. Let's see, I think we can get through that one. So we got involved originally about 30 years ago doing black tigers down here in Thailand on pellet mills, not extruders. But again, the fine grind was used mostly for the preconditioning. It was really important. Now the big preconditioner is much bigger today. In those days, it was just a little 2 or 3 feet of conditioner. Today, they've got like triple pass. They're injecting steam. They're trying to hydrate it. They're doing all the cooking there. But it's the same for extrusion too. There's some different things going on right now. We see it in South America where they're doing small feeds even for bigger shrimp. And they're just teaching the shrimp to just go grab that whole pellet and don't tear it apart in the water, don't cause any kind of other issues. I think that's, yeah, there's shrimp originally, they kind of have a different way of eating. They like to grab it and tear it apart, but they're getting shrimp now that can just grab the whole pellet. Let's move on to the next one. These are the 2 types of pulverizers that are used. This is the one we sell. And this is typically, this was designed by ACM Micropole. They, in Asia here, this one's got an air classifying wheel on it, and there's a grinding plate in here. We just use grinding plates in the air. Same difference. Really, they perform almost the same. In Asia here, they move this classifier up higher, so it works a little bit better. It's not as close to the grinding chamber. But they both work on the same principle. One of them is buoyancy. So in other words, the particles come into the grinder, they stay in the grinder until they get buoyant enough, until they're small enough, light enough, have enough surface area that they can be carried out of the grinding system. And I just completed some testing with both of these types of units, and they pretty much work exactly the same. So it doesn't really matter which one you pick. It's a matter of the quality and how long you want it to last and whatnot. And the advantage of this is, versus some of the hammer mill stuff, I'm not saying, there's some hammer mill people who are telling me you don't need a pulverizer, you can do it with a hammer mill. Well, that tends to work with these very small size screens. They wear out all the time. And this doesn't use a screen. Neither one of these uses a screen. They're using air classification systems, basically. They can handle higher fat than a hammer mill. They don't, when you load up a nice hammer mill, you put 8 pins in it, 4 hammers per section. You got a small screen, big screen backing. Things wear. And, when they've got all the new components in there, they almost can get close enough to a pulverizer, but not always. And so there's some advantage there. The pulverizers also use a lot more impact energy if you want to. We typically hook them up to an inverter, so you can just dial in the amount of energy you want to use. There's no tearing or leaking or anything. Anyhow, and then this is, in Thailand, we sold a lot of these systems like this. Don't sell them this way anymore. This is called a product collector. It's got the filter and the cyclone is mounted to the bottom. Today we would do something more like this. Let's see if I did, I think that's one of the changes. This type of system, there's a couple, it's easy to clean up if it gets contaminated. And also in the future, we're probably going to have to put an isolation valve between this piece of equipment and this one, but we can exhaust to outside, to atmosphere. So we put the filter outside, we just get a little dust, most of the material comes through here, put the fan outside. So if there is a fire, we don't want it jumping from equipment to equipment. We don't want it going from the grinder to through the whole plant You know, it can get out of control. So the idea would be in the future, we will be required probably to put in, some companies are already doing it, they're putting in isolation valves that trigger when there's a fire, and they'll shut it down so that piece of equipment is sealed from the other piece of equipment. It's just something we have to talk about a little bit when you're designing this. So again, we put the filter outside, we're okay. If there isn't, most of the explosions happen in that dust collector. Not so much for pet food, not so much for Aquafeed. There's very few cases of explosion. I think I have way too much coffee today. Pulverizing, this is just a 3D drawing of the same thing. We're adding in some screening. This is kind of becoming more important today to put a screener on this system, just because there's so much contaminated materials out there, fish meals, whatnot. You get plastics and whatnot, and you want to get that out of the system. And if it's clean enough, we can go right back into the pulverizer and regrind if they're oversized. But most of the time, it's just to remove garbage. And then this is our pulverizer today, the way it looks, usually direct dried. Again, we put frequency inverters on everything. And then just to get into a little bit of the things we do a lot of classification with air classifiers and whatnot. But another way to do that is with screening. You know, when you're in the wheat business, you do a lot of screening with the wheat. They can run through the roller mills and they just screen, and they shaker boxes and all this stuff, which are good screening devices. We sell a screener, but it's really just to take off about, you know, just 3 to 5% of the material at most. Our screener isn't very good at taking a 50-50 cut. It'll just clog the screens and it'll be too much trouble. I have a hard time keeping this close. I think we hit almost everything I wanted to talk about there. It is a little bit, there's, you know, we were talking about grain-free and pet food and stuff. There's still a lot of grains going into pet foods. They're lower cost. Real meat proteins cost a lot of money, and not everybody can afford that kind of pet food. It's just too expensive. And, you know, it's this idea of using grubs, which has become kind of popular in Europe, and there's some companies in the US doing it now. Good protein sources, excellent. Algae isn't probably not the answer. It's worth too much. It's got other uses. It works for aquafeeds. It just isn't, it's just not practical. If you're gonna do all this stuff with algae, you're probably gonna sell it somewhere else. It's just kind of like that pea flour. We ground it to get into the aquafeed business, but then the pet foods people would pay more, so not much aquafeed uses the pea powder. It's just the way it is, just live with it. And then this is our company, and I think that's all I really needed to talk about today. It's just kind of a quick run through, something to think about, and again, you'll get copies of those. And again, that system design stuff is something we have to worry about in the US and in Europe, about fires and stuff.
Phil, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Phil. I think it's not often we get a chance to look so deeply into a technology that delivers the products or the fine ground products that we need without getting into specific machines, but it's a great way to understand the principles. Any questions? Do we have a question out here? Yes, just state your name and where you're from.
Hello, I'm Satya Krishna. I'm the plant head for an Aquafeed plant in Victam.
Oh, okay.
I work for Olam Agri.
For which plant? Which plant was it?
Olam Agri. We are a Singapore-based.
Okay.
We have our presence in Vietnam,
Okay.
as well in Africa.
Oh.
My question is regarding the capacities sizing. It's quite tricky. On the grinding chamber size, on the moment, I believe 170 is the biggest.
170.
The chamber size, the chamber diameter.
Oh, we've got multiple sizes. We go up to, well, we use inches, but we've got 48-inch wide ones. The only ones we use in Aquafeed really are our 48 and our 28.
Yes. So this is something where we get easily deceived while we grind. When we get into high fiber material while grinding.
What I found in Vietnam
Drastically
is,
helps.
in Vietnam I find a lot of rice hull.
I'm speaking.
And it's hard to grind.
Reference comparison between my Vietnam plant and my plant in Nigeria.
Yeah.
In Vietnam, I have a 160 pulverizer. In Nigeria, I have a 170 pulverizer. But this capacity is rated way below 160 in Vietnam.
Okay. So you're asking whether we can
I'd
size?
like to know your comment against, the
Well,
fiber sizing and the fiber content of the material.
Chamber sizing, we can put a lot of horsepower on them if we want, but then we're going to generate probably too much heat. So if we got a lot of fat in there, we're going to have problems. But the bigger the machine, the cooler it will run but the heat is really generated by the horsepower. About 80 or 90% of the energy from the motor is going into heat. When you break bonds, that's where that energy goes. And you end up, so it's kind of a combination of heat and energy and how much material you want to get through. Is your material heat sensitive? A lot of bone meal and stuff, that's not going to matter. But in rice hull, you get a lot of heat when you grind. I don't know why when I think of Vietnam, I think of rice hull. It seems.
Okay.
In
Yep.
Vietnam, mostly we
Yes.
don't
Can,
use much of rice.
can we take this conversation to afterwards, because I think it's a very
I'm sorry.
specific. No, that's a very specific request.
I can talk to
Yeah,
you. I'll
please.
talk to
I
you
mean,
later.
there is an opportunity afterwards. There's water on the side here and out the back, and there's a little contribution cake in the Victam bags there if you like them. But let's thank Phil again. A wonderful presentation. Thank you, Phil. Hellman is from Andritz in Denmark, and he's going to address us on process optimization and integrated solutions to drive total cost of ownership in pet food and aquafeed production. Gunnar is 59.
Actually, 60.
60.
Just turned 60 2 weeks ago.
Well, congratulations. And he brings 22 years of experience from the food and feed industry prior to joining the company. He has been with Andritz for 5 years and holds a Master's of Engineering, contributing extensive technical expertise and industry knowledge to his role. You're going to address us. It's a long title. There it is up there, but Gunnar, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And it's a great pleasure for me to be here. And it is actually really, really nice for me to be the last speaker, because the previous presentations feed very well into my subject. I mean, Dr. Reyes, he spoke about good equipment, he spoke about digitalization, he spoke about keeping things smooth and working well. And Phil was speaking about grinding and even grinders and so on. There's a lot of focus area to keep that up and running. And my presentation will be about total cost of ownership, and I will get more into the details about that going forward. So I have prepared a little agenda where we'll speak about the. I will just present my company very briefly, then talk about the challenges that are when you're talking about total cost of ownership, how you address it in the plant, because there are ways of optimizing it along the way. Then what can you do? Some digital solutions, and that fits very well also to the demands in a modern feed plant and food plant. And then some closing remarks. I will not talk about myself. Roger did that very well and so on, so there's no reason, even if I like to talk about myself, but I can always talk more about that later on. Andritz. I mean, we are quite a large company. The part that I work in is Andritz Feed and Biofuel. Andritz in total has 30,000 employees, and the feed and biofuel segment has about 1,000 employees. And we are based around the world with offices, service hubs, and production facilities. So quite a large group, and we are there globally to support our customers. We are where our customers are, and we are also traveling to remote areas in order to support them. What we do is production facilities, but we sell single equipment, but then also to total plant operations. We want to support our customers from start to finish. We do not do everything ourselves, but then we partner up with others in order to deliver a complete solution. Lately, we have invested quite heavily in the automation and digitalization industry, because we can see, as Dr. Ria said as well, digitalization, that is a future trend, that is something a must, and we have really done a large investment in that as well. But enough about Androids, let's kick up. Here there are some of the things that I will touch on today. So it's number one, it's a little bit understanding what is total cost of ownership. Then also talking about where do we see some of the losses in the factory. What can we do to address these losses, and how can we optimize the production along the way? And then how can we make sure that these improvements are not just something we did and half an hour later they are all forgotten. Oops, wrong way, sorry. Here we see a typical flow of a factory. And when I'm talking about total cost of ownership, we are talking about from start to finish. Every single step along the way in the process needs to be looked at, needs to be addressed. And it's not good enough just to look at one equipment. It can give some benefits. For instance, we know the dryer is historically one of the most energy consuming elements in a production facility. So of course optimizing of the dryer will help, but looking at the whole process, that is what is important. Same goes here when we look at product quality, and that also fits very well to the previous speakers' inputs and so on, because a lot of times we hear from people when we come out, yeah, but the extruder is not working properly, the quality out of the extruder is not done really, really well. But what we then see is when we analyze it, when we look at it, then it shows that maybe the recipe was crap. I mean, Dr. Ria said about quality raw materials, quality products in order to generate a quality final product. Also, Phil was speaking about grinding. I mean, often we see that the grinding is really, really poor. And when the grinding is poor, the rest of the process will be poor. So you cannot just look at it and say, the extruder is bad or the dryer is bad, because the consequences can come from somewhere completely different. And it is due to that, it is really important to look at the entire process and not only at isolated incidents, because that will give you a wrong picture of what is really going on in your factory. Understanding a little bit about total cost of ownership. A lot of times when people buy a new factory, they are looking at what is the cost. They look at, okay, we invest so and so much, what is then the payback and so on. Sounds all good, it's all sound and so on. But you also need to understand the reason behind the equipment that you're buying. What about energy? Is it energy optimized equipment? What about yield losses? Is it efficient in your process, or do you lose a lot of things down the line? Downtime and maintenance. I mean, think about, is it easy to maintain? What is the cost of spare parts? These things, and then the quality. So these are all things that will influence the process. And you might buy very, very cheap equipment, but if it does not deliver, if it breaks down all the time, if there are issues here and there, you will lose much more than it has cost you to buy the equipment. So buying the right equipment from the beginning that can be maintained, that can be kept running all the time, because running equipment will generate money. Equipment that does not run will definitely not generate money. It will cost you money, not only standing still, but also in terms of parts, repairs, and things like that. So therefore, we see a lot of times that people are focusing very much on the price, but that is not necessarily the good thing to do. You need also to look at the other factors here. For instance, we have here listed a number of losses that you often do not even discover that you have. Microstops. I mean, a machine stops here 5 minutes and you think, okay, 5 minutes, what's 5 minutes? Doesn't matter. But think about a factory that runs 24/7, 5 minutes every hour. A stop of 5 minutes every hour, 24/7, times 365 days. These 5 minutes generate a lot of stops. Yield losses, that's raw materials that you have paid for, but you're not using it, you're not selling it. That means you will never get the money for these raw materials. On the contrary, often you have to pay money to get rid of these raw materials because they are waste. Unplanned downtime. Downtime is probably one of the worst things because it creates chaos, it demands rescheduling, it demands overtime. It will cost you a lot along the process. It will really give you a lot of issues, and we'll get a little bit more into that later on as well. Quality. I mean, Dr. Reyes was also talking about quality products, about quality demands, recalls, things like that. Just think about it, what will it cost to get a recall of a product. I mean, it will, number one, cost you a lot of money. You have to redo it, but it will also harm your reputation. And that is much worse, because if you have too many of these, people will say, no, we don't trust your company. We do not trust that you can make proper products, and due to that, will go to somebody else. And then that customer is lost forever. So that is something that needs to be looked at. Startup and shutdown losses. I mean, think about it. Also in your planning, a lot of factories, particular pet food factories, they have lots of recipes. I mean, I know a lot of factories that have 150, 200 recipes. They are changing all the time. But even in Aquafeed, it gets more and more common also to have more and more recipes, more and more specialties, because people are demanding more and more from these various diets that are out there. And for each time you start up, you shut down, you waste time, you waste materials, and so on. So also your planning, your thinking is very important in this case. Look at it, have the right equipment for the right cereal sizes. Because if you have a 15 tons extruder, but you only want to produce 5 tons, then you will waste a lot of material starting up and shutting down. So there you need to see, okay, the big series, we use the big extruder, but the small series, we need a small extruder or a pelleting mill, whatever. But think about these things when you're doing your planning, because there are a lot of money hidden in this that will influence on your day-to-day business. When we look at upgrades, you can go in and say, yes, we'll upgrade one machine. And it will work, it will give you some benefit. But often the bottlenecks then moves from one place to the next. Often it's only a temporary solution because it does not really solve your problem. So you need to look at it from start to finish. Also bring in digital solution to help you control the process, to help you measure the process, because only when you measure, you can also find the issues along the way. And a stable production, a production where you do the same every single time, that will also give you a quality that is the same and a good thing every single time. Because if it just depends on manual adjustment and so on, then you will see a lot of differences depending who the operator is. You might have some really, really brilliant operators that will fix the issues every single time. But I'm quite sure you will also have operators that rather sit in the control room than being out there and adjusting the machines and so on. Or when it's in the evening or night shift, that rather take a little nap than producing quality products. So it is important to have the systems to support you along the way. Let's look at it, how to go about it. The first thing you should do is diagnose. Go in and analyze your process, step for step. Write down what you achieve, look at what you achieve, see what you do. Then you stabilize the production, so to make sure that you achieve the same results again and again and again. Once you have that, then you can really go into optimizing it, because everything can be optimized. Even if you thought, okay, now my production is running really, really smooth. No, there's always something you can do. There's a tweak here, a tweak there, something here and there that you can do, and that will give you the last bits of the money in the end. When we look at cost, this is just an example of various costs that you see in production. There's energy, there's raw material yield losses, there's labor costs, maintenance, downtime, quality. There's all sorts of different costs in a plant. And all this will make their way to the bottom line. Some of it you do not, as I said, the micro losses, micro stops, you might not even recognize that you have them, but they will end up in the bottom line nevertheless. Downtime, I was speaking about it before, because what happens when you have downtime? The machine is not working. You have raw materials that might have been pre-processed that you actually have to throw out. You have labor, people that are standing around doing nothing while the machines are being repaired. You need to reschedule your things to make sure that your customers are getting their product. You might have to apply overtime to get back in things, and you have wasted a lot of energy. So downtime is really one of the big killers and so on. And that is why you also make sure that you need to do maintenance of your equipment. When we look at a little bit of energy consumption of an extrusion plant, I mean, there are various items here. One of the big ones is the dryer. Here it says 45% of energy cost of a total plant. Often, this here, 45%. If you have 45% energy consumption, you actually have a quite good plant of your dryer, because a lot of times we see 50 to 60% energy consumption of your dryer in a production facility. And that is because the dryer is something that often is not very well optimized, is not run very well, because you can buy the dryer and the specification says, yes, it has this and this efficiency and so on. But that efficiency depends very, very much also on human interaction, because each recipe is different. Each recipe has different specifications, different sizes, different moisture characteristics, different raw materials. I mean, Phil was talking about grinding different materials. They act different. Same in the process here. The various elements will influence it. Or also, the grinding size will influence this as well. And due to that, there are systems today in the market that help control the dryer, that optimize the dryer and does something. Then you can say, yeah, but Gunnar, you are talking about we should look at the whole line and not only focus on one equipment. And that is correct. You should still focus on the whole line. But you start one step at a time. And the dryer might be a good place to start to see the optimization. Of course, the rest also needs to be optimized. But this here is only optimization of energy. There are all the other factors as well. When we look at material handling, I mean, Phil, you were talking a lot about grinding, things like that, and the things that influence. Here, there are things like moisture consistency. There's also the fat levels in the formula that will influence it. It's also your batching, your dosing accuracy and so on, because if that goes wrong, you will get issues. Dr. Rias was speaking about traceability. Traceability is enormous important, because how can you know what you actually produce if you do not trace it? And then your particle size distribution. Also, again, Phil, you were talking about this, getting the proper grind, getting things down to the right sizes. I mean, it is important for your process. It is important for your final result, because else you might end in crap at the end if you are not controlling things in a proper way. So, do you have typical, often finds off-spec products? that may very well be because your start of the process is not controlled in a proper way. When we look at grinders, I mean, there are so many grinders pulverized, there are so many handles to play around. Phil, you were talking about airflows as well and so on. That is one of the things that you can control. There's wear parts, there's separation, there's recipe reality. There are so many various things, so many various factors, and you need to look at them all, because only when looking at them all you will get a proper and optimized grinding process. When we then look at the extrusion process, I mean, the first thing, and that's why it's on the top, is maintenance. If you do not properly maintain your equipment, it will not run. You will run into issues. Once you are sure that your maintenance properly, then there are all the other things that you can optimize. There's the conditioner. Dr. Rias also spoke about proper conditioning, that it's really, really important to get the proper conditioning done in order to get things right, in order to get the basis of the product right before it enters the extruder. There are screw configurations, there are various items influencing it, die plate design, the knife setup. Dr. Rias was also speaking about the knife setup, a proper knife setup to do a proper product. Venturi opening in the extruder, and then there's a lot about thermal and mechanical energy. Also, Dr. Reyes was speaking about that, with mechanical or thermal energy in the extruder influencing the process. There are a lot of things to focus on, and the list goes on. There are much more things. I've just highlighted some of the things that I see as important. But as I say, maintenance is key to success. When we look at the dryer, I mean, dryer, yes, we have a lot of energy consumption, but we also have a quality element here, because if your drying is not uniform, what happens then? You might be over drying to compensate. That means you are wasting a lot of money. That's like I say, do you solve your problems by over drying? Or you might, what is even worse, under dry, and then you run into mold in your products, you run into product recalls. That gives you a lot of challenges. So also, as I said, your dryer is key to the process. And if it is a manual process, then it depends very much on the operator skill to make the right measurement to adjust the dryer, because the dryer should not just run on the same product program. We see it a lot when we come out there looking at dryers. The dryer just says, yeah, but we've adjusted it to this and this temperature, this and this time, and then we're just running. But there's a huge difference. For instance, in Aquafeed, if we have a sinking fish feed, we need drying times of 45 minutes. If we have a floating fish feed, we can do it in 25 minutes. So there are differences here that influence the process, and that needs to be thought about. Therefore, there are new systems that are developed, other systems that can control these dryer uniformities, these dryer moistures, controlling the recipe. So by entering the recipe, the dryer knows exactly how it needs to be adjusted, how it needs to run, and it does a constant measuring to make sure that it is even. In Androids, we have developed a system called Dryer Ace, which even uses predictions in the systems to get the dryer process right. But there are other systems around as well. Coating. I mean, coating is often forgotten because people think about how difficult can it be to coat. Yeah, it can be very difficult, and particular when you are thinking, let's say Aquafeed, where you need a high oil content. If you do not get the oil right, if you do not have the right addition in your product, your sinking probabilities of the feed might be totally wrong. Suddenly, instead of having a nice slow sinking product, you might have a floating product that instead of fish feed ends as bird feed. Or you have a fast sinking product that instead of fish feed ends as waste at the bottom, polluting the waters. You do not want that. In pet food, similar. I mean, the wrong coating can mean everything. Cats, for instance, they are very, very picky eaters. they will find the kibbles that are not coated properly. So if you put a bowl in front of them, you have kibbles there that are not coated. The cats will go around them and only eat the ones that are coated properly. So coating is important. Also, hygiene, speed. How quickly is it to change over? How quickly is it to clean your equipment? And then the whole function of it. So things to focus on. Again, maintenance. I mentioned it before, but maintenance is the key if you want to keep things running. You prevent unplanned downtime that can really challenge you in the process. If you introduce things like condition monitoring, you will find the issues before they occur. You will find them, you will solve them, you will fix them before they get a problem. In many sites that we come to and that we see around, so when we hear from customers, they are not doing proper maintenance. A lot of the equipment looks really poor. And when the equipment is poor, the output will be poor and your efficiency will be poor as well. And when I talk about maintenance, I'm not only talking about fixing issues, solving problems, I'm also talking about cleaning. If you have a clean site, if you have things, tooling, everything in the right place, then it is efficient, it is nice, it is easy. And also the workers, the workers will prefer to work in a clean plant than in a plant where there's product all over the place. Particularly also when you have customers coming to your site and there's product all over the place, the customer will wonder, are they really in control of the process or are they not? So that's things to take care of. And man, you do not need modern equipment to maintain it. You do not need modern equipment to keep a factory clean. We were in a factory here the other day. It was more than 20 years old, but it was spotless. We could have eaten from the floor, and it looked really, really nice. And it gives confidence, okay, these people know what they are doing. Condition monitoring. Why do you want it? You want to do condition monitoring because you want to know a problem before it becomes a problem. Everybody can figure out that when the machine is stopping and it's broken down, that it has been broken down. But you need to fix it before it gets a problem. Because when you start to detect it here in this area, then you can say, okay, we have an issue here, and that is something that we need to fix here. Next weekend, we'll do it. In my former past, there we had one of the factories where we had a big extruder, and there was no condition monitoring, there was no vibration analyzers. What happened was then suddenly the gearbox of the extruder motor broke down. It was a huge gearbox for a huge motor, and that caused a stop of the factory of 3 months. If the company had not had other production facilities where they could have moved the product, they would have lost a huge customer account. Today, they have vibration measuring on all the big important motors and gearboxes because they want to detect issues before they get an issue, before they get a problem. Automation, digitalization. Why is it we want to do that? We want to do it because, for instance, if you have manual recipe control, that means you are dependent on the notes, on the books of things. If that is in an automatic system, you can start from a baseline. You press the button, you say, okay, we have this recipe. We did it the last time with these and these parameters. We'll start there, and then we can do fine adjustment. If you do not have it, you need to find it in the book. Where's that? And are my notes correct here? And how are they? Oh, no, I cannot find that book. So we have to start from scratch. It will generate a lot of startup waste. It will generate a lot of issues. Same with the controls, operator to operator variations. I mean, we have good operators, we have bad operators, everybody knows that. But if you have systems that support the process, then it helps the operators also make the right decisions along the way. Late decisions, instead of, if you have automatic systems, they will tell you, predictive monitoring, they will tell you that things are offline because you will have trend curves, you will see what is going on in the process. Then also safety along the way. I mean, safety in a factory is important. We want to ensure that everybody that goes to work also goes home to his family after work. And then, of course, there's the whole traceability. Dr. Reyes, he mentioned that very, very well, that traceability is key here. Because also when you have a recall, you want to be sure that you trace, that you are in control of your traceability, because then you know exactly what you have to get back. But you also want to prove towards your customer that you are actually in control of things. Same here with digital optimizations and so on. It is about monitoring, it is about visualizing the different steps in your production. Because when you visualize it, you can improve it. You can look at it, you can see what is going on. And you can constantly go on a journey where you look at learning, adjusting, standardizing, and then starting again. Digital insight shifts reaction to prevention, and therefore you will reduce total cost of ownership every single day. Some final remarks. As I said in the beginning, total cost of ownership is not just that you say, we buy a new machine, then all our problems are solved. No, they are not. They might solve a particular problem, but they will not solve all. You need to look at the whole value chain within your factory to really optimize it. Start to measure, capture data, and only when you start to do that, you can also see improvement. And do not turn all the levers at the same time, because what have you then actually, what is it that has actually improved the process? One step at a time, look if it has an effect or not. If it has not, then move on to the next thing until you see you get improvement. Then you continue and so on. Then stabilize the production, and then keep going. Once done, start again. You are never finished. You are never finished with this. This is an ongoing process, will go on forever. But if you do it properly, then you can really, really achieve a lot of savings in your production. And that's money directly into the pocket. And then last but not least, I need to do a little bit of commercial for the company. We can help you on that journey. So reach out at any time, and we are more than happy to support you. Thank you very much.
What an embracing presentation. I think if we didn't get the message, we shouldn't have been in the room. I think that what Gunnar has provided here is how we work on a daily basis in the fields of pet food, with a focus on pet food and fish aquafeeds. I think it's a fantastic presentation. You've taken us through all the nuts and bolts of what can go wrong, but also more importantly, how to address them. What we should take forward from today and apply in our daily working life. Even if we're not at that level to make those decisions, we should be raising these issues. And thanks very much to Andritz as a sponsor of this session. Thank you to Reynolds as well, and thank you to Dr. Mian Reyes for their contribution. But I think we've heard this morning, and that's why I let it carry on. We've gone over time, but I think this is so important to us. If we're considering or we're manufacturing either aquafeeds or pet foods, it's people like these we need to listen to and take time to come. We will invite them back next time. That'll be 2 years in time, but in that time maybe things will change slightly. But I want us all to put our hands together again for a final thank you to our presenters.